Hello everyone, my name is Petros Pantazis. I work for Riot Games and I've been working in the localization department for 4 years now. And I'm here to talk to you about localizing Runeterra. Before I explain what Runeterra is, I just wanted to do a quick check, show of hands. Who knows what League of Legends is? And who knows what Runeterra is? No hands were raised. Anyway, okay.
Nice.
Runeterra is basically the world that the characters of League of Legends live, and League of Legends is basically the only game that Riot Games has. So Riot Game, it's a constant joke. But yeah, so before I start, I would like to have a few credentials as well. I'm none of these things. I'm not a game designer. I'm not a linguist. I don't even have a degree in translation. And I'm saying this for 2 reasons. First, I want to set the expectations accordingly of this talk. And the second point is that I want to frame this for what it is. I hope to elaborate and explain how we view localization, we as in Riot, what our processes are and what challenges we face. These are not the industry best practices. This is not how things are meant to be done. One reason is that League of Legends is a fairly particular game compared to others. And the solutions that we find not necessarily apply to something that is not League of Legends. Part of the reason League of Legends is particular is the sheer scope of the project. League of Legends players are around 100 million active users per month, spread across 18 regions, and we localize about a million and a half words per year into 24 languages. So when we are approaching challenges and when we are finding solutions, we try to make solutions that work for these numbers, which are pretty crazy. Another particularity of League of Legends and localizing it is that we have quite a variety of content. The main thing is League of Legends is a game which patches every 2 weeks, with new content, new game modes, new heroes, new champions, new skins, which are customizations for the champions. But there's also a lot of peripheral material, such as comics, short films, events, novellas. They come up with new things to localize every year, which makes it exciting. But also, when we are finding solutions, we need to find solutions for all of these things. Now, as I mentioned, League of Legends sort of patches, updates every 2 weeks. And as a result, it's never a boxed product. We're never done with League of Legends. And that requires localization too. Traditionally, localization would happen, you finish a product, and then from English, you turn it into whatever language you want. But this is not something that can happen with League of Legends. If you release something in English, it has to ship simultaneously in every other language that we support, which makes localization something that needs to be entwined in the production cycle of whatever we create. This timeline here, it can be applied to a variety of our products. It could be for a champion, it could be for a short film, it could be for a comic. And I'll try to explain where localization fits in each step. We start at the concept. This phase, it's a very brainstorming phase where ideas born and die. That's a horrible phrase. Ideas spawn and then go away, and there's a very rapid iteration happening. There's nothing to localize. However, localization is still involved, especially in the form of sensitivity checks, which we'll go into more detail later. Mainly to make sure that whatever is being discussed and thought about can be localized and is okay to, would make sense for a broader market, not just in North America. After the concept phase, we have the development phase, which then here we start building the thing, whatever it is. And again, we don't have things to localize yet. There's no final text, there is no VO, none of these things. However, there's a very important step here that localization is involved, and it's called internationalization. I'm gonna mess it up because nobody has said this word perfectly ever. This phase basically is about making sure that whatever we are building can be localized in a technical sense. That if you're building a game mode, that fonts support special characters for all our languages. If you're building a website, that again, you can support all the different text sizes and things can scale, and there's no English text hard-coded, so on and so forth. Finally, we can start, once the English is approaching final, we can start doing localization, which is like, it's just a slide here, but it could be like 50 presentations only about this, this piece. What I want to highlight is that we are approaching localization in, from a cultural adaptation point of view. What that means is that our players, we want them to feel that whatever content they are experiencing, it has to feel like it was originally created for them, whether they are in Japan, NA, Europe, wherever. So again, we will go into a bit more detail on how we go about doing this later. Finally, after we've localized our champion, we have to test it, which is a very important step that we call LQA. And essentially, this is our last line of defense. This is where we make sure that whatever we translated is displaying and is implemented properly wherever it is meant to live. And once we're done with that, we're live, which is a happy moment, but it doesn't mean we're done. This is a very, you need to see what the reception of what you created is. You need to make sure that, to listen to player feedback, to see if what you thought was going to resonates, and if not, course correct, and use that feedback to make better localization next time. Now we're gonna go into a bit more detail into this huge word, which is also spelled as I-18N because there are 18 letters between the I and the N. This is the step where, again, we prepare for localization. When a product is ready for internationalization, usually localization producers will embed with the team that is creating that product and be there as a voice for localization to make sure that the teams that create the products know what the localization needs are, what the localization capabilities are, and of course help with planning, because as a necessity, localization will happen towards the end of the development of anything. And it's really important to make sure that you account for the time. However, you should spend time even before localization in internationalization, because things that can be fixed at this stage, if they're not, and they're spotted in a later stage, they will take 10 times more effort and resources to fix. This is also another stage where we can do sensitivity checks. Essentially, what we're doing is making sure that the content that we are creating is not offensive, is not illegal in any of the regions that we create. And this again, it's not necessarily a localization-only role, but localization can have is in a position to be able to have a voice in these discussions, just because they are part of those cultures. Some examples here on the right, we have Akali, the girl with the back tattoo, which initially had way more aggressive red tattoos on her back, and our team in Japan raised concerns that this is very much Yakuza imagery, which is not something that conveys coolness in Japanese society. And again, like when these things are created in California, I understand how this can seem, whoa, she's gonna have a dragon tattoo and it's gonna be cool. But this is something that, and localization is in a position to provide that context and say, hey, maybe we can tone it down. The same with the smoke coming out of the girl's mouth. This was from this is a thumbnail from a trailer where one of the characters is an assassin and kills people. This is smoke coming because she's shot, but the thumbnail made it look like she was smoking. So that raised concerns. Once it was cleared out that she's shot, it was fine. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't make sense. But after the internationalization pass, here we go to localization, which is again L. It's also called Lion because it's L10. No. I never liked that name. Here, translations are only part of the whole process. We want to make sure that we adapt whatever it is we are working on to the culture that we localize it to. It has to feel authentic. And again, this is something that we can talk for hours about. However, one of the things we found that really works is having translators in the region, being in the culture and being aware what resonates and what not with the audience. Click. Some work on cultural relevance has to do with how characters are translated. For example, these are some of our champions. Fiora, the girl on the left, she's a duelist that's very refined and aristocratic, and she has a French accent in English, which might convey these characteristics, but how do you do it in French where everyone has a French accent, I presume. The same goes for Tam Kench in the middle, who's a southern gentleman trickster kind of frog. Or a yep, or a crazed hillbilly. Well, how do you translate a hillbilly accent to Dutch? I don't know. Again, these are questions and challenges that localization has to come with creative solutions to. I don't have answers, I just have questions for you. Another example for cultural adaptation is songs. If you translate a song, sometimes it ceases to be a song. Lux, one of our characters here, had a line from the Late Lament from Moody Blues that our German team decided to not translate and basically use I might not pronounce it well, but Goethe poem that stays true to the character, even though the meaning is completely different. Jokes is also another instance where this cultural adaptation happens. Gatekeeper Gallio had a joke about how he's a bad guy. And he wanted to describe hell, which apparently for NA is a place with cookies but with raisins. Now I get it. They expect chocolate. There you go. Thanks. For whatever reason, this doesn't translate in Italy. They had to come up with a real culturally relevant depiction of hell. So they decided to describe hell as a place with pizza, but only with pineapple. And finally, we have LQA, our localization quality assurance. I was really hoping that I'm almost out of time, because then poetically this reflects the situation during LQA. You almost always don't have enough time. It's, again, the last line of defense. It's not functional QA. It's about making sure that whatever you created, whatever you localized, is displaying correctly. And I have one picture to illustrate that, but before I show it, does anybody here speak Welsh? Please be quiet. So we have this this street sign that somebody had to translate, and they wrote it in English, sent it to a translator, got a reply, created the sign. Perfect. Only in Welsh, it says, "I'm currently out of office. Thank you for your message. I will reply as soon as I'm back." That's why you need to always make sure that your translations are checked and displaying correctly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Petros. We have time for one question. If anybody wants to know about pineapples and peaches. Here. There we go.
So just adding a quick thing to the theme of all the issues that you can have with localization. You never mentioned the word length issue with German in particular, and Hungarian as well, where you have this nice text that fits perfectly into the interface, and then the German translation comes back.
Yeah, I think we have a template for that bug somewhere. It's too long. It's this one and unsupported characters for Greek. They are two most common bugs at every. Yep, that's why you need to check things, because sometimes they don't fit.
Cool. Thank you very much.